Hey, my name is Christopher Putong,
I am Alan Shalonko.
and this is the Humble and Dope Show, back with another episode. Now, you are watching this, probably either confused or interested about the title. Gonna be talking about folks like us being fetishized, maybe? So let's check out this video right here.
Let's do it.
Asian fever has exists in society for quite a long time, but it's usually been towards Asian women. And I've always had an issue with it.
It's gross.
It's disgusting. But now that Asian men have been fetishized, I'm kind of, is that wrong? Oh, the pendulum's finally switching a little bit. Okay, I'll take it. Is the fetishizing of Asian men a net positive?
That's a hard question to answer. First and foremost, there's a power dynamic here. Because our society generally is pretty male orientated. So sexual interest and fetishization, you've always got to view it through that lens. If some chick is into you because you're Asian and you're not into it, you can say no and you move on. Versus an Asian woman, if they get hit on by a dude and she turns him down, the consequences are drastically different. With that said, I don't even know if I want to call it fetishization. It might just be seeing Asian dudes as dudes. This isn't the fetishization of Asian men. This is the humanization of Asian men.
Okay, I like that.
Right? Asian men have been seen as lesser than. Asexual, emasculated. They're not men. They just exist. And now what's happening is women are realizing that Asian men are men. And I think that that is a great thing.
For a time, a lot of Asian men were like, I hate the fact they're fetishizing our women. Now, I'm wondering if Asian women feel the same way about us. If they see more of us with white people or Latinos or black people, whatever it is, do they feel like, oh, they're stealing our men?
Yeah, so
Interesting. Yep.
it's interesting. Like, how do you feel about that? Let me ask that. Like, do you feel like Asian dudes are being fetishized now with, like, you've seen us in K-pop, seeing, like, us as, like, seeing Lu as, like, a literal Marvel superhero,
Right.
And just more positive representation. Like, what do you think?
I remember when I first watched that video, I didn't understand the word fetishize. Can you before I get into it?
Basically, it's like someone like you, not because of who you are, but just because of your ethnicity.
Okay.
Like, basically, like, a lot of times we see, like, on, like, TV shows and stuff, the white dude that's way too into an Asian girl and only Asian girls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Just because they're Asian, doesn't matter, what their personality is. Or
Right.
whatnot.
Just because of their
Yeah,
okay, that makes so much sense. Does that kind of tie into the culture standpoint? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this goes back to like just how Asian folks have been like portrayed in media. Asian women were always hyper sexualized, while Asian men were emasculated.
Right.
It's basically two sides of the same coin, where it's just like we're treated as caricatures, not as people. Like I know early on, like back when like the first like Asian folks, or it was Chinese folks or Filipino folks that were being brought in to work on the railroads or whatnot, were brought in, and they were only letting guys come in, and not bring their wives because they didn't want Asian people to, reproduce, have kids and stuff. And what dudes gonna want to do is they're gonna want to talk to women. They can't bring girls. They can't bring their wives. Well, not so. Who are they going to talk to? White women, because that's all that was on the West Coast, right? And then, ironically, it was white dudes that were upset because now you got a whole other influx of men that's in the dating pool, right? So it kind of came this weird like thing where it's like you didn't let them bring women come over, but now you're mad at them because they're also men that want to talk to women.
Right.
So it's really weird and interesting how Asian dudes have kind of been portrayed in media. You know, I think Gen Z has it the best so far with just how much representation there is. You know, a lot of times you want to see representation. You know, YouTube was a great thing because, you know, with oh gosh, the age of myself again, the Niga Higas and the Kev Jumbas, the
shout out
Wong
Nigga Higa.
Fus,
Shout out Nigga Higa, man.
Timothy De La Ghettos, all of them. You know, just so you got to see different personality types, different type of Asian folks. And now it's in TV shows and movies. But do you feel like Asian dudes like are looked down upon, like dating wise? Like, I'm not sure. How do you feel about that?
Dating wise, I'm trying to think. I think I say recently, and this is like kind of my point of view. From what I see, I feel like recently been a slight upscale of like, oh, I want to date an Asian man. I think that kind of goes back to the fetishized thing. You know what I mean? But I think just because of that, there's been, in terms of the upscale, like from what I see, like people from what I hear, like people, and just my point of view is like, you know, people just want to date Asian just because like I said, the culture, or like say K-pop. I know K-pop is really popular for anyone, things like that. But you make a good point about like the personality wise, and I think that just goes for like not just Asians. I feel like any race, but I think definitely primarily Asians, from what I see at least. But in terms of dating as an Asian, I think it's a slight upscale from what I see, especially in this generation. But at the same time, it's now that like talking more about the fetishized, I see it more of a like kind of a clear picture. Like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? People just want to date Asian just because of their culture or you know, things of that, and not personality, something like that. You know what I mean?
Have you dealt with that, like maybe past relationships or just trying to put yourself out there? Do you feel like you get perceived differently to maybe your white or your black or Hispanic friends or whatnot?
I would say no. I mean I never had that like I guess encounterment or like things like that. I was like, hey, like you're Asian, or like your skin, like your ethnicity, skin color, things like that, which I'm grateful for. And I mean, like, I would say all the girls I dated in the past, I mean, I wouldn't say like they dated me just because I was Asian. You know what I mean? And well, I would say I have a pretty good personality. So,
that helps too.
so
Yeah.
something like that. But I mean, this is my personal experience. I never experienced something like that, which I mean, I'd say is a good thing. So.
Well, you're very fortunate because it was definitely a little bit harder for me in my day. And mind you, I was a trained model, and you can see this picture right here from back in my modeling days. And I remember using that picture on Tinder as well as other pictures like that, and not getting as many like likes or hits or whatnot. And my friends, which were not models and were maybe not as great as at taking pictures, would get more hits. It's really interesting. Like it's almost like a glass half full because the girls I have dated in the past, if they dated me or wanted to date me, I knew that they really liked me. Because I have tried to put myself out there before, and there is just so much, at least during my time, that was working against us because media perception is everything. We weren't perceived as jocks. We weren't perceived as the lead in a romantic comedy or whatnot. So we weren't seen that way, and it plays out in real life. Now it's more you're making a little more progress. It could still get better in my opinion. Because there was this viral video of this girl that went to South Korea, trying to find a K-pop type model
I
boyfriend.
think I've seen that.
You saw that?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was in the street and like confused, looking at like random Korean dudes. And what's weird is like the Korean dudes that she had on the street, they weren't bad looking at all,
All right.
right? But they just like weren't they didn't look like these guys who had some work done and had all the makeup and lights, and it's just
Like on the media, basically.
yeah. So it's really interesting. It's funny that I feel like white dudes and Asian women are like it's the safe interracial pairing on TV shows. They're like, oh yeah, we're really diverse, and it's just them, right? And in real life, I like half the white dudes that have either dated or been with Asian women have been cool. Like they don't. That's not a big focus.
Right.
Like I got given the Asian girl, but then I've met the other half where that's all they dated. And it was really awkward, like really apparent. I think one guy, I literally asked him, like, "Oh, what do you like about your girlfriend, and, your wife, whatever?" And it's like, she's Asian. I was just like,
That's it. That's it. Like,
if that's the first step,
yeah.
because I think it's like me saying the reason, what do you like about my girlfriend? It's like, oh, she's black. It's like. That she would feel really awkward,
Right.
So like, oh, her smile or her personality or
right.
value.
And it's like all the things is like, oh, she's Asian. I'm like, that's her ethnicity.
Yeah.
I see.
Do you think? And obviously, we're trying to speak for the other half. How do you think Asian women feel in general about Asian men being pursued about non-Asian women a bit more? Do you think it's fetishization, or, as he was saying in the video, Asian dudes just finally being seen as dudes a little bit more?
Yeah, and I think it just kind of ties back into the culture. More so like, first thing that comes to my mind is like the Western culture versus the Eastern culture.
Yeah.
In terms of dating and how people see girls or guys. I think, definitely like going back to the Western culture, I think it's more fetishization. Like, hey, I want to date you because like you're Asian or you're this and that. You have this and you look like this, and like I said, it just goes back to like how things are being portrayed on the media. And that's just not just for Asians, but like just people like in general. I think Western culture, I think media plays a big part in a bad way, because let's say girls or guys, they see their quote unquote dream girl, dream guy on the media, and it's like, oh, I want to find somebody like that.
Yeah.
Well, honey, I'm sorry that you're not going to find a guy like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think like just tied it back into the Asians, like, yeah, like the K-pop stars, like I said, K-pop stars, and I ain't gonna lie, they are magnificent. I'll say, I don't know if it's the right word to say, but I don't know about that.
All right. I'll say this. And it's interesting because we don't look like, both you and I, we don't look like the normal Asian folks that get put in media. So it's interesting that, and mind you, you're a good looking dude. So it's not, I can't imagine you having that much trouble as far as like your appearance, trying to put yourself out there. But yeah, for me, the fact that I have a girlfriend, like, clearly she likes me for me, not because of my appearance. So
supporting y'all.
Yeah, shout out to her. But it's really interesting because I'm curious. I'm sure. I've read some stories. I don't know how true they are of some Asian women. I have to assume it's a huge minority, or a small minority, excuse me, of Asian women that are upset by it, just because there are some Asian women that like, I don't date Asian dudes because they remind me of my brother or my dad. I can't imagine.
I never heard that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I can't imagine like what that does to someone's perception. Be like, yeah, Asian dudes are being pursued by white women and
Right.
black women. You know what I mean? So, you know, all I can say, especially if you're an Asian dude that's Christian, especially, you've probably dealt with this in church, you know, trying to date, you know, the girl in your youth group or at church conference or something, maybe struggling. When you're young, it's nice to have a lot of options, to be pursued by a lot of girls, or to be interested, or, you know, get a lot of looks from a lot of girls. But as someone that's a bit older and hopefully wanting to marry the girl I'm with right now, it's better to have, you know, one girl, one woman
Right.
that's right for you than a bunch of girls or a bunch of women pursuing you that's
Agreed.
not at all right for
100% agreed.
you know. So if you're Asian and maybe you're struggling dating wise, try to see the glass half full, that if someone does, you know, date you or eventually ends up dating you, that they like you for you, that they really want you. So, but I mean, do you have any final words before we wrap up this topic?
Yeah, I think dating in general, and I'll just tie it back into like faith, like my faith. Like, I mean, I date to marry, and you know, and dating in general, like, as long as, like, no matter who you date, you know what I mean, and like whether it be race or skin color, whoever it may be, as long as you and your partner are putting God first and last, and in the center, all these things. And I think just dating in general, that's like the best thing that could happen in your life, in terms of like in your dating life. And not only that, like, make sure like I'm losing my words make sure that if you're dating someone, you have to make sure if you're in a relationship with someone, make sure that your relationship with God is good first. You know what I mean? And like I said, kind of tied it back into faith-wise, like, you know, if you are not solid with God, and I think we talk about like fetishization, I think that's a good thing to bring up, because I feel like it's also kind of like idolizing in a way.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes even like in relationships, we can even idolize our own partner just because of how they look, or just because of how they treat us.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a bad thing, but if you're putting that first before God, then that's a problem. So I think the biggest thing, like whether it be you're Asian, you're black, you're white, Hispanic, whatever it may be, make sure that your relationship with God is the number one priority before them. And secondly, make sure in your relationship you're putting God first, last, and on the sides. So that's just kind of like my little piece of advice in terms of dating, you know, faith-wise, and putting God in. So
Yeah, and you know, like I know for me, I've just to kind of give some encouragement for some of the guys, particularly in general. You know, I've dealt with it just because most of my exes have been black women, and my current girlfriend just happens to be black. Um, just dealing with looks that we've gotten, and just people saying derogatory stuff. You know, weird people are gonna be weird regardless. You know, I just don't get caught up in it. Don't internalize it. Just, you know, keep moving forward and don't lose hope, because clearly things are getting better. But just keep in mind, if someone likes you just because you're Asian, that might be a red flag. But if someone likes you
a
for
red flag.
you, and you just happen to be Asian, you know, maybe you got something there. But you know, that's about it for this episode. You know, let us know what you think. Do you think Asian dudes are being fetishized nowadays, or are we finally being seen as just dudes? My name is Christopher Puto,
my name is Alan Shalonko.
and this is the Homo and Job Show.
Peace.